So today we're going to be doing a layout for our Arduino shield, our Protoboard shield. This is where we're going to construct our circuit for the remote jammer TVBG, and we'll put all the parts on the board here today, figure out where they're going to go. Ultimately, this board is going to end up plugging on top of our Arduino. Okay, so they call it a shield because we can plug it into the Arduino. The Arduino does the computing and everything and makes our remote jammer do its thing. So we'll be able to plug it in and out. It comes with these, and these you would just need to find the correct one. Don't worry, we're going to go over assembly. We're not doing that today, but I just want to show you how this works. We're going to ultimately these get soldered in, okay? And you can see here then they would be able to line up with the plugs, and we'd be able to push them in and connect this top board to the bottom board. Okay, so what we're really concerned with today then is just doing our layout, so figuring out where all the parts are going to go. So this will be sitting on the board like this. This is the orientation. So what we would want to consider is our operation of this thing. So where would we want to put the LEDs, the infrared LEDs? Well, if I'm going to be hanging on to this like this, I'm going to want my LEDs probably shining off that way. So when I'm considering where to put my infrared LEDs, I think about its function, right? So I'm just kind of throwing this here, but you could imagine having some infrared LEDs all across here. That way I can kind of point this thing. So I consider that the operation of it and where I want to place things. Same with this little switch. This is going to allow us to switch between the TVBG mode and the remote jammer mode. And so we'll want to figure out, well, where does this need to go on the board? Well, we'll look at the schematic diagram and kind of figure that out as we lay everything out. So here's the schematic diagram for the remote jammer TVBG. And what should kind of be apparent is that we basically have a duplication of this circuit here 4 times. Okay, so same thing 4 times. Identical resistances here, 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 and here, and these are also identical resistances and identical transistors. And then of course we have the slide switch. It's a single pole double throw. We will use this to select in between the TVBG mode and the remote. Diving right in, we'll start with the infrared LEDs, which are going to end up going along this edge here. We'll draw those in first because we know that we're going to have 4 of them there. All right, so when we position these on here, notice again, just like every other LED, there's a short leg, long leg. So short leg's negative, long leg's positive. And we have 2 different types. And the difference between these is the viewing angle on them. I believe that's one of them. There might be something else, but we'll have 2 of each of these, total of 4. So let's get the first LED placed. We're going to start with D1, and I'm just going to figure that we're going to put it here because we do want it pointed off to the edge of the board. So this will be D1. We're going to take let's make the longer leg go into this hole. Okay, so we'll just write positive there. And then we're going to take the shorter leg, the negative leg. I know it's longer in the diagram, but we'll put the short leg into this hole right here. So that'll be D1. We'll put D2 close by. We'll go here for D2. We'll put, just like we did the other one, we'll make this the positive leg, and we'll put the negative leg right here. Yeah, we'll do the same for D4. We'll put that right here. Okay, and we'll put the positive in that hole, and then we'll take the negative to this hole right here. All right, so that's where our 4 LEDs, D1, D2, D3, D4, and then we'll start building from there. If we look back at our schematic diagram, what we'll do is we'll figure that we need to put R1 nearby D1, because you can see they connect right here. And then we're going to have a transistor that connects to R1, and we'll have R5 and R1 close by this transistor. But let's get this resistor in here first. So R1, and then we'll jump back. We know that needs to be close to the negative lead, which is right here. So we'll probably just put the resistor right in this area. Now, here's the actual one of the resistors, actual resistor. You can see that the body, the length of the body is about 3 squares, or it's 3 squares, 3 circles. So we could probably take this leg and put it into a hole right here, and this hole, or this leg, could go into a hole right here. So basically what I'm saying is the distance between here and here, it's a total of 0.5 inches. The pitch on this board, which is the spacing between pads, is 0.1 inch. So we'd have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 inches would be the space between them. So we'll keep that in mind for all of our resistors that we use. So the resistor would actually be taking up about 3 of these circles. This one's going to be R1. Okay, and we'll place R1 here. So one leg will be able to go into that hole. One leg will be able to go into that hole. And they are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 apart. Okay, R1. Okay, then we said that connected to R1, we have this transistor. We'll just keep going down. Then we'll do R5 last. So R1 will connect up to Q1. So Q1 should be close by. And also further notice that the resistor connects to the collector. All right, so if we jump back here, here's what the transistor looks like. Right. So when we're building on this board, each of these legs will be 0.1 inches apart. Okay, so if I have my board here, you can see how the legs would be able to go into the holes just like that. Okay. So that said, again, I want R1 by the R1 connects to the collector. So what I'll do is I'm going to make it so that the transistor is just going to use this hole, this hole, this hole. And I'll make it so that this hole here, I'll make this so that this is the collector. And then this can be the base and emitter. Okay, because on the real deal, as I'm looking at the printing on the front of it here, this would be emitter, base, collector, right? So that would end up having to be put in like this. Okay, so if I did that, so I put the transistor in, so from looking at it above, it looks like this, then it would be emitter, base, collector. Okay, it'd be just like the transistors and like that. All right, so then, yeah, then I'd be close with my collector and this resistor. And then last, I can see that R5, well, it connects up to the base, and the other end connects to D3. Let's just worry about this. The base connects to R5. So if I go back to here, here's my base. So a good spot for the resistor might be to have it's one of the legs of the resistor just can maybe connect right into this hole, because then I'm right next to the B. So I'll put the resistor down right in here. It's going to take up 3 of those squares, and then one leg will be able to go into this hole, and one leg will go into this hole. Okay. All right, and now we said before that basically we have the same circuit 4 times. So keeping that in mind, we can just figure out where things go right now. We can have a R8. Okay. And let's take a look then. We have the switch left. Now the switch, if I look, the middle is going to connect to D7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the switch, which I think I've temporarily, oh, here it is. Here's the switch. Okay. It has 3 legs on it. I'm going to make it so the middle one connects to D7. So I'm going to put the switch right here. And just going to label this as the switch. Now the process of how we're going to wire this thing up is next. Now we saw some methods in that make video that we watched on using the Protoboard and the means of connecting the pads together. They did that by folding or bending over the legs of the part. You could do it by using scrap wire, or you could do it by, basically just connecting with solder if their pads are close enough. And I'm not going to say that that's going to be the easiest to do on this board. They're kind of far apart. You'll have a hard time getting solder to spread between the two. So we're going to go with bending the legs of the parts over, along with using some wire that we have in our kits. We'll be able to cut it up and use that. Okay, so let's figure out how we need to connect everything. So first off, if I look back to my schematic diagram, I can see that all of the positives of each of the LEDs. They're all connected to 5 volts. Even part of the switch is connected to 5 volts. So I'm going to figure out how I can get all 4 of these to 5 volts. So let's take a look at doing that. Here's my positive. Now, what you have to consider is we're looking at the top, right? So this is, if we had the parts all in here, we could see the parts on the top, but all of our soldering and stuff is actually going to be on the bottom, right? So when I'm drawing these together right now, I'm going to pretend that I can see through the circuit board down to the bottom where I'm going to make my connections. Okay, yes, you could make some connections on the top, but we're going to do the connections on the bottom. So imagine that we could see through the board to the other side, and then when I draw something on here, you would actually, if we were to flip it and see it, it'd be mirrored, but just keep in mind, we're seeing through the board. Okay? So that's said, let's take a look at connecting these 4 to positive. Right, so from the underside of the board, what I could do is connect all of these together. Okay, because all of the positives are connected together. So I've basically just taken care of this for now. I've connected this to this to this to this. I've connected all the positives of the LEDs together. Okay, but now I have to get them to 5 volts, which is right here. So I think the means that I will use for doing that is to use a jumper wire. Okay, so essentially what I want to do is get from here, any point, to here. Let's look at this board one more time. If you'll notice, I have 2 holes that could be used. See, here's 5 volts right here. Okay. So, sorry, right here. So this hole or this hole would be 5 volts. So my choice. So what I'll do is I'm going to actually solder a wire right onto here on the back of the board, and we'll be taking that to right there. Okay. So now all 4 of these are connected to positive. Let's see. So I just connected a jumper wire to my 5 volts right there. Now I can see that this pin is also supposed to go to 5 volts. So that would be, I could pick one. This one I know has to connect to 7. Actually, let's just take care of that. So I know the middle has to connect up to D7. So here's the middle. I could just put some solder or something here to connect these 2 together. All right, let's move forward. So let's go down this branch right here. D1 connects to R1. So if I look on my diagram, here's D1, here's R1. I could just simply connect these 2 together. I'm doing these with really thick lines right here, so you can see what I'm actually going to connect with, wires or solder or combination of the both, because I'm really drawing the parts and I'm drawing the piece, all the lines that connect these, the traces. I'm drawing them all on one page for us here. So next thing we need to do then, why don't we just do this? We'll connect all of the D2s in D3 and D4. We'll connect them all to those 39 ohm resistors. So we know that this will be the same. I've connected the negative of the LED to this resistor. I could do the same for this one. Why? Because they're 4 identical circuits, right? Okay, so let's jump back then to R1. I just did this. And then back at R1, the other end of R1 connects to the emitter. So here's the other end of R1. Oh, wait, did I say emitter? Collector. Yeah, connects to collector. So here's the collector. Here's the other end of that resistor. Connect them together. Okay. Same thing here. This end of R2 connects to the collector of Q2. R2, the collector of Q2. So these will connect. And I should cross these off because I did them. Same thing here. This end of R3 connects to Q3. Here's the end of R3. Here's Q3. Cross that off. This end of R4 connects to the collector of Q4. Here's this end of R4, connects to collector of Q4. All right, now if I look here, I can see that I have all of the emitters that connect together and connect to ground. Same with this, connects to ground. So I'm going to look for all the emitters on the transistors. So here's an emitter, 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 emitter. These all need to connect to ground. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just connect these. And they're going to connect to ground. I'll just run it right to here and solder to there. And that would then take care of all the emitters being connected together. But and we did run it to ground. That's good. I didn't get the switch in there yet. I have this one be the negative and this one be the positive of the switch. That way I can just take this end of the switch and run it with the rest of those. So what I would have done on the schematic diagram is connect one end of that switch to negative as well. So notice one end of the switch and all of the emitters are connected to the ground right through here. So now what we have left is all of each end of the resistor of the 470s. Each of these connect to one another, and then they also connect to D3. Okay, so if I go back here, here's all of the ends of each of those resistors, R5, R6, R7, 8. All of these need to connect up to D3, which is right here. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm just going to connect these together like that. Okay, so I would have this and that connected. Okay, so all those bases or those resistors connected to bases are now all connected together, and then we're going to take it and run it to D3. We'll do that right now. So we're going to then take all those resistor ends and run it to D3. We're going to do that with a jumper wire. So I'm going to take one wire from here and then just solder the other one onto there, and then that will be taken care of. So the last thing that I have then is this positive of the switch right here. See, oh yeah, I did 2 to 7 already. That was done right here. Okay. The middle went to 7. So that's just going to leave me then with taking the other end of the switch to positive or 5 volts. So this, I'm just going to use a jumper wire to go from here up to there. And that's positive. And then we will cross that off on the diagram. I still do need to actually connect these resistors, each of these R5, 6, 7, and 8, to the bases of each of their corresponding transistors. So I need to connect R5 to the base of Q1. So that would be, where are we? R5 is right here, Q1. So I need to connect the base to that other end, which isn't connected to anything. All right, so jump back. I just did that. Now we'll connect the base of Q2 to R6. So here's the base of Q2. Here's R6, that other end that's connected to nothing right now. So we'll do that. And then we want to cross that off on our diagram. We're going to do the same. Connect R7 to the base of Q3. R7 to the base of Q3. And then we're going to cross that off and do the same for R8 to Q4, the base of Q4. So R8, that free end of the resistor connects to the base of Q4. And let's see, did I get this? We should check because I don't see I crossed it off. The collector of Q4 connects to R4. Here's the collector of Q4 right here. Yep, it is connected right here. So yeah, also the importance of crossing off as you go along, which I missed a couple times here. This is a digital version of what we just drew up, basically. We did two things, though, on that sheet. We were basically doing the top and bottom views all at once. So really, we'd be looking at the top of the board. This would be our parts layout right here. This is how we would see the parts if we were looking right at them on the top side of the board. Okay, and then if we were looking at the bottom of the board, if we flipped it over, this is how we would see everything's connected. You wouldn't see any parts on the bottom. This is where all your soldering connections occur by bending legs over using jumper wires like here and here and here. It's our guide for soldering everything together. So just keep in mind that when we were drawing things out, we were showing a combination of the two. We were showing the parts layout with an overlay of how everything was connected as though we could see through the circuit board. But in reality is, if we were looking at the top side of the board, we would just see the parts. And if we were looking at the bottom of the board, we would just see the connections.